loves, my name is Paige, this is Paige the Page, and today we're going to be doing the Aussie Book Tag. Hello my darlings, welcome to this video. Today I'm going to be doing the Aussie Book Tag, which was originally created by Happy Comes First, but I'm doing this now in honour of the Australian Readathon, which is running throughout the entire month of November about reading Aussie books, Aussie authors, and having a grand old time. This readathon is created by Mel from a book thing named Mel, Ren from the Reading Ren, Meredith from Reading with Merb, and Steph from Novelty Corner. So this tag was originally created by Happy Comes First 7 years ago, and so I wanted to jump on and do it because I love talking about all things Aussie. With this, it will be all Australian authors, and I'm just very excited to talk about these books. There was a moment of realization that this is very tricky for me because a lot of well-known Australian authors I don't actually always read from. Like, never read Leanne Moriarty, I've never read a Matthew Riley, and I haven't read from Melissa Lukashenko or Amberlynn Qualamina in individual components. I have read an edited work by Amberlynn Qualamina, but not as their own entities. I'm sorry, it made it really difficult, but I'm so happy that I persevered and managed to find a book for all these answers that was written by an Australian author. So I hope you find some good recommendations from this, and I'm just so happy to dive on in and talk through it. So the first one is Koala, a character you want to cuddle all day long. And for that, I'm going with the group from The Slightly Alarming Tale of the Whispering Wars by Jacqueline Moriarty. This is the second book in the Kingdom and Empire series. The first one is The Extremely Inconvenient Adventures of Bronte Middlestone, and that was also very sweet. But the orphan group in this, mostly Finlay and Glyn, I could cuddle them. They're sweet little beans, and I adored hearing their voices and narrative, and it's just so wholesome and so cute. So I definitely could cuddle those characters all day long. If you're looking for a really sweet, comforting middle grade, this series is fantastic for that. In this, we're following two groups of children. One are from an orphanage and one is from a very privileged school, and it like breaks into all-out war between the two, and their shenanigans are just it's so much fun, but so light and so wholesome. The next one is Vegemite, a book that you can love that everyone else hates. And for me, this is very entertaining because I am un-Australian in the fact that I don't like Vegemite. I can't stand bitter food, so bleh. But I make Ash a Vegemite and cheese sandwich every single day for his lunch, so I find it entertaining, but it's just not my own personal preference. But still sticking with something that I love that everyone seems to hate, I struggled so hard to think of an Australian book that people hated. I then eventually, I think after maybe an hour and a half of trying to think of an answer, decided, you know what's a good idea? I'm going to go into Goodreads, search my read shelves by lowest rated, and see what comes up. I don't know why I didn't think to do that at the beginning, because straight away the lowest rated one with a 2.90 was The Seventh Wave by Paul Garrity, which I believe I gave 4 stars. This is the first book in a duology, and I read it a decent amount of time ago. I think it was 2016. It only has 29 ratings. Oh my god. Anyway, I feel like I'm in the minority of giving it 4 stars because the concepts were so interesting to me and so engaging. I got sucked in. I adored just how fast-paced and adventurous it was. I don't remember too much about it now, considering how much I have read since, but I know I loved it and I had a grand time reading it. It was one of those books that I read it at the right time and just got to fall back in love with reading, so I thank it for that. If I were to read it now, it probably wouldn't be rated as highly, but it was such a fun time, and so I loved it and still do. I just don't recommend it because I don't think a lot of people will. So definitely my Vegemite. The next is SOCCEROOS, and that's your fave fictional squad. Please don't come at me, but this was an instant answer, and that is the crew from Tomorrow When the War Began by John Marsden. I loved this group. I was so attached to Ellie. I loved these characters. Fee, Corey, just, oh my god. All of them just had my heart and soul, and growing up reading this, it's just amazing. I don't think they hold up as well now, but when I was reading it, it was definitely an influential time, and I adored seeing their dynamics, how to work together. I wanted to be them and go like camp out because I was wanting to be safe in the bush, and it was just like, oh my goodness gracious. But this squad has been one that's definitely stuck with me for the longest time, and I loved their dynamics. I love how messy it was, and I just appreciate them as characters. Southern Crust is the next one, and that is most recent 5-star read. And for that, by an Australian author, is I'll Let Myself In by Hannah Devine. This is their memoir about growing up and becoming the person that they are today. Hannah's drive in life has been to tell stories and to be in a world of narrative, and the impact that music and just overall stories can have on us has been such an influential part of their life, and especially overcoming the challenges that are presented when you have cerebral palsy, but not wanting to be defined by the cerebral palsy. So they have carved out a space for themselves to let themselves in, and it was just absolutely amazing seeing the journey that Hannah has been on and her growth and desire and passion for life. And the way that she talks about narratives is definitely something that hits home for me, and it was just so lovely hearing someone so elegantly portray that in their memoir. It was just amazing. And then I got to meet them at the book launch for this at my local library, and it was glorious. So yes, definitely most recent 5-star by an Aussie author, and so happy that it got to be this one. I definitely tabbed the shit out of it because there were just so many moments, whether that be just realizations or hit me in the face with it or just holy shit moments. It was beautiful, and I very much appreciate them putting this out into the world. The next one is Patriotism, and that is a fave book by an author from your country. And for that, easy pick, Talking to My Country by Stan Grant. I adore Stan Grant's writing, the way that they conceptualize topics and be able to articulate it so beautifully. It's just fantastic, and I feel that this really gave a hard look into their own personal experiences and the whole conglomerate of race, identity, and Australian history. And so it was so powerful. It was amazing. And I still just think back to this going, oh my God, the absolute influence that this had in being able to shape my thinking was amazing. And the lines in it just amazing. I don't know how someone can write so poignantly. Absolutely amazing nonfiction. Basically any of these I would highly recommend picking up, but if you are looking for nonfiction recs, definitely pick up Hannah Devine's and Stan Grant's works. They're amazing. Next up we have ECHIDNA, which is a book you like to look at but physically hurts to read. And for me, I went with Shell by Christina Olson. I read this for my local library book club, and I didn't hate it with like a fiery passion, like Men Are From Mars passion, but I was so bored. I didn't vibe with it. I didn't give a shit at all. It is about the building of the opera house and this girl and their influence, and just, it was so confusing. I didn't get it. I don't care. And yeah, I love the cover. I picked it up because of the cover, but the content did nothing, and it physically hurt me because it was so slow. It was so boring. I struggled so hard. Everyone else at the book club most ranged between a 3 and a 4-star. And a lot of people had a lot of commentary to make on it, so that was great. But for me, I just, oh God, that was physically painful to actually get through. But it is stunning. Next up is Ned Kelly, a book that is really grim, but an iconic must read. And if anyone knows Aussie authors, you will understand why. The Book Thief by Marcus Zusak. This is told from the perspective of death and is going through Liesel's life during the Nazi occupation. And holy fuck, it is dark, it is grim, but it is stunning. It is just absolutely immaculate. I know that not everyone's gonna love it, but if you are interested, I would highly recommend picking it up. It made me sob. It just is such an impactful book, and I feel like if anyone thinks of this question, it's a grim but iconic read, definitely this. But Marcus Zusak is an Australian author, so that's immediately where I jumped to this. I don't want to talk too much about it because I feel like this is one of those ones where if you know that it's just narrated by death and following a little girl in the Nazi occupation, that is enough if that does spark your curiosity to go and pick it up. But otherwise, feel free to read further if you need a little bit more of a push. But oh, was amazing. Next up is Great Barrier Reef, and that's a book that had you gaping in awe. And so for that one, I'm going with Homeland Calling, which is Words from a New Generation of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Voices, edited by Ellen Van Neven. And the reason this had me gaping in awe is because the music videos are on Spotify and YouTube, and so I was listening to it. It was absolutely stunning. It's a collection of songs, poems, soul-moving music. It is collected as poetry and based off hip-hop song lyrics. So listening to it was such an experience, but I do definitely feel that there is a point in reading along through the physical because it just gives so much voice and depth to it as well, rather than just listening to the YouTube videos straight. But holy fuck, absolutely amazing. It just hit in a way that I've never read a book before like that, and the resonation that it had in my soul was amazing. You could argue that, like, yes, audiobooks do that, and with spoken word poetry, when listening to the audiobooks, have the same sort of structure, but it's on another level. And yeah, so this is my pick for that, because I was absolutely blown away with how it was all compiled, and it was just done excellently. And listening to the beat made the poems flow that much easier because I understood how they were meant to be read. Next up is Pavlova, and that is a light and fluffy book that you can't help but love. And for that, I'm going with Nevermore by Jessica Townsend, The Trials of Morgan Crow, which is the first in the Nevermore series. This is not necessarily fully light and fluffy, but it definitely is light and fluffy in terms of being a middle grade with magic, magical houses, finding yourself, and just being, oh, so goddamn cute. I don't think that it shies away from harder topics, but it definitely does keep an element of lightness to it. When you're in this magical world, like, obviously, it's amazing. Juniper North is just iconic at holding a situation, and everything about this just makes me smile when I think about it. I cannot wait for the next one to come out. But Jessica Townsend is Aussie, and so I was like, yes, absolutely, this is where I'm gonna go. That's what I'm putting down for this. And then the final question is Milo, a genre or author you reach for to get out of a reading slump. And for me, I think the key takeaway for me is middle grade. I absolutely adore these book series, and knowing that there are more out there for me to devour just makes me so happy. They're so easy to fall into. They can deal with a lot of darker topics but without being depressing as shit, and you just get in the flow of reading it. Like, reading these, they're 500 pages each, thereabouts, but they've got illustrations in them, like, so good. And you feel accomplished getting through a tome, but it's so easy and light, and it doesn't take effort. And so I love middle grade for that. I feel like Australia does have some exceptional middle grade authors, and I'm so happy about that fact. So this is what I lean towards when I need to get out of a slump, because I need light and fluffy. I don't need dark and depressy. This is part of my stack of Aussie books. I also have Shell and Seventh Wave on top of these, but it's such a good stack. It makes me so happy knowing that I have so many, like, favorite Australian authors. With that, as I said at the beginning of the video, I did struggle. I don't read enough Australian authors, and that's totally okay. I have a backlog of shit that I'm happy to dive into for the moment, but I definitely would love to make a bigger priority when it comes around to things like the Australian Readathon, which I didn't realize before now, to actually really prioritize it and just dive in head first, pick up those things that I'm absolutely loving because they're available to me. I am Australian. I have a lot of access to Australian books. I have an entire section of our library that is dedicated to Australian literature written by Australians. It's all up there. I can go up and sit and read in their reference room, but I just haven't, and I'm realizing that I actually really want to. So hopefully next year, if the Australian Readathon happens again, I will be able to dive in head first, because that would be just awesome, filling up my shelves and filling up my brain with more Aussie authors. So let me know in the comments down below, is there a question that you want to answer? What do you read to get out of a reading slump? Do you have a favorite Aussie author? Let me know. And also if you learnt about a few authors that you didn't realize were Australian, because I feel like there are a lot out there that people just don't realize are Australian, and I'm not mad at it, but it's just like, yeah, we've done good. So let me know anything you want to let me know down below, and if you like this video, feel free to give it a big thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more of this mess, feel free to subscribe. I'll hopefully see you in my next video. Bye!